Good afternoon YouTube and welcome back to the channel. In today's video we are back at Engine Dynamics in Colchester, Essex to get Matt's Clio 200. Matt cammed, new cam belt, new exhaust, so join us on today's video. Those that are familiar with the channel will know that I'm no stranger to engine dynamics. Andy worked his magic previously on my 172 Cup, cracking 195 horsepower out of the old 2-litre engine that had now covered 133,000 miles. Now, the Clio 200, although it makes more power than the Mark II 172-182, it gained considerable weight, which unfortunately outweighed any performance advantages. So we knew from previous runs out when me and Matt had taken his white Clio 200 out that he wanted just a little bit more from it. Now the problem is, naturally aspirated tuning is no easy feat, especially compared to boosted applications. But we were confident that Andy would be able to work his magic. As I'd be setting off from Heathrow, it made sense to collect Matt's car Friday evening. Now, unfortunately at the time, we'd had the worst storm the UK had seen for a long time, so wasn't great on the roads in the evening. I did hope to relive my hot hatch youth picking the car up, so said goodbye to the E92 M3 for the weekend, and then took Matt's back to mine so I could set off first thing Saturday morning to Andy's. So I live over by Heathrow Airport. To Colchester, Essex, where Engine Dynamics are based, is around an hour and 30 minutes for me. Now, unfortunately, it does involve me going via the M25. And for those that know, the M25 is basically the largest car park around London 99% of the time. So I set off bright and early at around 6:30 AM, convoying with Matt on the way, and obviously stopped for a trusty Golden Arches to line our stomachs for the morning ahead. So Matt purchased the car with some already completed modifications to it. It came with the Akrapovic catback exhaust, which deletes the secondary catalyst on the standard system, and it also came with a remap. Now we do know it did have a map on the car because it has a raised rev limiter over standard. But when we discussed this with Andy, our plan was always to flash the car back to a completely stock ECU calibration so that we could see the full gains that we would see from the package. Now, much to our surprise, the car actually made near identical power to the factory map. So I can't say for sure what on earth was going on with that calibration that had been put on the car, but the only thing it gained was an increase in the rev limiter. Now, this is one of the things that you often see, especially now with a lot of tuners where they don't have the dynos to prove it. You don't really know what you're getting when you're paying for that remap, and a lot of the time, especially with the bum dyno, because you've spent the money, the placebo effect, you always hope that there's been an improvement. But in this case, as shown, other than the raised rev limiter, there was zero advantage to the calibration that had been completed. So back to a standard calibration, it was then time to see what the car would make standard. Something that I do want to stress in this video, because I'm sure I'm going to see it in the comments, is people saying, well, they don't make this power stock, they don't make that power with a few modifications. And what I'll always stress with a dyno is it's a measuring tool, and obviously something that's used for calibrating a car. If you've got a base figure and then of a figure with all the modifications completed, it's going to be clear to see what power you've gained where. As I've discovered in the past with cars, you can get sucked into that peak horsepower number. And in today's video, we will run the car obviously in a standard calibration, and then hopefully we'll be able to overlay a graph with some serious improvements from stock. So as mentioned, we've come to Colchester in Essex to see Andy at Engine Dynamics. Now, for those of you that are familiar with the channel, I have been here with my 172 Cup, and like I said, me and Matt have discussed doing some tuning work on his 200 to really get the best out of the car. Now, in today's video, we're going to do the base run, obviously with a standard car, with the exception of the Akrapovic exhaust, and then we'll be coming back for part 2, where we get all these parts fitted, get it mapped on the dyno, and then part 3, we'll be going out on the road test to see how much difference the Stage 2 package has made. So as mentioned, in the Stage 2 package from Engine Dynamics, we have the Catcam camshafts. We're obviously going to have to do a brand new cam belt kit, which will be a full service with the engine oil as well. Andy has advised us that the standard exhaust manifold not only fails, but also has issues with restrictions in the pre-catalyst. So we've gone with a full stainless steel system here. As mentioned, the car does have an Akrapovic catback exhaust. The issue with keeping that wonderful exhaust is we will lose the catalyst, which we don't want to do, obviously, to keep it road compliant. So we've gone with a sports catalyst on this kit. We've got the uprated engine mount, and we've also got an aftermarket air filter to go in there as well. So as we mentioned when we first introduced the car, it had an unknown ECU calibration on there. Now Andy's put the car back to standard, and as you can see, the blue line is the aftermarket calibration and the red is a completely stock one. Now it doesn't look night and day difference, but you would expect, paying a premium, to have a calibration put on a car that it would perform better. Now obviously here you can see the extended rev limiter compared to the stock calibration, but ultimately the car makes more power with the standard ECU calibration versus the unknown map that was on there currently. So now it'll be on the car to get it all rolling roaded and get the cams put in, and we'll see what gains Andy can pull out of the ECU with the Stage 2 package. So the plan is to leave the car with Andy to work his magic. The thing is with this job, it's not going to be 2 minutes. We've got to have all the subframe dropped to have the exhaust fitted, which is the new manifold and the catback. It's also going to have the cam belt and the camshafts all changed. And like I say, these things are not something that you're going to do in a few hours on a Saturday morning, especially with the ECU calibration work. So with that in place, we left it in Andy's capable hands, knowing that hopefully when we came back in 2 weeks' time, it'd be a completely different car. Hopefully you guys enjoyed episode 1 of the Clio Sport 200 tuning. Now this is going to be spread over 3 episodes, as I mentioned, with the first one being where we are today, dropping the car off, the second episode being the collection, and the third, the actual out on the road test and what it's actually like to use on the road. So if you have enjoyed the video, please make sure you consider liking and subscribing. Until next time guys, thanks for watching.